The one and only Udonis Haslem in the house. What's up, big time? How you doing, man? How's everything?
What's up, brother? What's up? What's up with you? Glad to be here, man. I appreciate you.
You know, I mean, I appreciate you too, but I gotta admit, man, you pretty damn good at this basketball analyst stuff. I mean, you trying to take people's jobs already. You're doing a great job, UD. How you enjoying it?
I mean, I'm enjoying it a lot, bro. I mean, I had a chance to watch y'all. I had a lot of free time as I got towards the end of my career. I wasn't playing that much, so I got a lot of time to watch y'all boys and check y'all out and do y'all thing. And I say, you know what? I like their style. They fresh. The custom suits and you know how they moving now. They getting walked in through the arena and they interviewing and they checking them out. I said I could do that. I think I might want to do that.
I saw the suit this morning and it was pretty fly. I have to admit it. The pretty fly outfits. You definitely dressing the part. But on a serious note, I want you to educate our audience. What is it like for a former player to walk into the business of giving color commentary, having to be honest, having to be neutral, having to be straightforward? What kind of challenges, if any at all, has that posed for you in your post-playing career?
I mean, I want to maintain, you know, my MO is being real. You know, they call me the OG, so I always want to maintain, you know, my realness. I want to maintain my authenticity. But it's such thing as keeping it too real sometimes, and that's where you got to draw that line, and that's where you got to have that balance. You know, everything you think, you ain't got to say. Everything you feel, you ain't got to say. And if you do say it, it's a certain way you can say it and smooth it out a little bit to where you don't ruffle any feathers or where you make it sound a certain way. So for me, just not being so real all the time and making sure I still get my point across. And sometimes I'm gonna ruffle some feathers, damn that, but not as many as I need to. You know, I could manage that a little bit. I'm getting better with that.
Do you agree? Because I've said this to numerous players that have come into the business, and so many of them have done a great job. And I think you're going to be fantastic. ESPN is very proud to have you. I can tell you that as a fact. But one of the things that I often say to them is that I could say some stuff because I wasn't a player. So as a journalist, you know coming in, this is where I come from. And I don't have to worry about that. But as a former player, is it true that players and former players hold former players to a different standard than they hold everybody else to?
Hell yeah. I mean, first of all, we already sensitive. We sensitive about our craft. We sensitive about our work. And we even more sensitive when it's somebody that's been in the locker room with you or it's somebody that's a part of the club. You know what I mean? Guys like that you played with, that you played against, that you competed against, there's an unwritten rule. There's a man law. There's an NBA law. So we try to protect each other as much as we can. We can compete against each other. We could dog each other. We can knock each other down, but we try to protect each other when it comes to that media. So once you're in that club, you want to stay in that club. You don't want to get tossed out. So, you know, for me, just maintaining that. And once again, there's a balance there. You know what I mean? Because I got to keep it real and I got to tell you the truth. If you ain't doing your job, I'm going to tell you ain't doing your job, and you just got to respect that.
But they don't. A lot of guys don't sometimes. Not all of them. I don't want to do that to the players, but not all of them. But some of them, they don't respect it. You could be telling the absolute truth. They did something in front of millions of people watching on television, in front of thousands in attendance, and all you did was echo the obvious, and some players will still have a problem with you over that. What do you do?
Stephen A., that's why everybody ain't built for heat culture. That's what I learned from the great Pat Riley. If I care about you the way I say I care about you, then I got to tell you the truth. I got to hold you accountable. The harsh truth is 10 times better than a good-looking, cute lie. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If I want the best for you, I got to be honest with you. I got to tell you the truth. So a lot of these people, they don't want to hear the truth because at the end of the day, the truth is hard. Everything you want to do, everything you want to get is going to be on the other side of hard, and you got to get uncomfortable. Nobody wants to get uncomfortable these days. Everybody wanted their way, and everybody wanted smooth. So, you know, for me, being with the Miami Heat, that's probably the best thing that could have happened to me. Being a kid that had bad habits growing up, was naturally good at the game of basketball, was never challenged until I got to the Miami Heat and got in that system.
I want to go. I'm talking to Udonis Haslem right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get into what transpired in the NBA Finals and what transpired throughout this NBA season, my last question to you on this topic would be this. Crystallize for our audience. What is crossing the line in terms of a former player speaking, giving color commentary? When you talk about being a part of that fraternity, what qualifies legitimately as crossing the line and should qualify as crossing the line?
Personal conversations, man. Anything we talking about out over wine or, you know, things that happen in the locker room or conversations that have in the locker room, things that go between certain guys that you got to iron out, those kind of conversations, those things are personal. I think those are the things that you keep in-house. So I got to let everybody know that mess with me on a personal level. When it comes to that, I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna protect your brand. I'm gonna protect your name. I'm gonna keep my mouth closed on certain things. Things you talk about with me, we're gonna take that to the grave. I'm loyal to the soil on that. But now, when you step out in that world and when you step on that basketball court, that is not personal. That is not private. You are in front of the world. I'm just telling the world what's going on the basketball court. And once again, as a man who wants the best for all the NBA guys and want to see them be their best version, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Now, how you take it and how you receive it, that's on you. But most of the guys that I've been around have been receptive to the things that I've said because they know I want the best for them.
Well, you know how I roll, and I totally agree with you 1,000%. And that's why I always say, I walk around and they can talk all the shit they want to. There's no one that could ever come and say, I violated a personal conversation. It never happened.
Man, I can say shit? Oh,
yeah,
man.
Okay. It's a little different. The climate's a little different here. But UD, let's go to the NBA Finals and all of the stuff that happened. How surprised were you? You picked the Mavs, I picked the Mavs. We both thought Porzingis would be hurt, wouldn't be able to go play in those first 2 games, out the next 2, showed up in Game 5 for a little bit, etc. How surprised were you that the Finals ended the way that it ended, and what did you peel from it?
I was extremely surprised. I knew Boston was the better team, but I thought that in that particular series that Dallas would keep it going. I thought they found lightning in the bottle with the way Kyrie and the way Luka was playing, and I thought they would keep it going. But, you know, make no mistake about it, Boston has been the best team in the NBA all year. So not surprised that Boston won, but I am surprised the way Boston won 4-1. I thought it'd be a closer series. I thought it'd probably go to 7. But being a guy who's been in the NBA for 20 years, habits. And I know habits always win out. And I should have known that Boston had better habits at this point in time. They've been through the pain. They've been through the sleepless nights. They've been through them losses. They've been dogged. They've been talked about, man. They've been thrown away and kicked around. So I should have known that Boston was going to have the habits to win the championship.
More credit.
That's on me.
More credit, more blame, whichever way you want to go. Who deserves most of it? For the series ended up the way that it did.
I got to give credit to Boston. I got to give credit to Boston because they stuck to their game plan and they attacked Luka every which way and turned him every which way but loose. And that was something that I was saying in all the other series. Why is nobody consistently attacking Luka? Why is nobody consistently attacking Kyrie? So on the offensive end, they consistently attack Luka. They consistently attack Kyrie, which is how Boston plays the game of basketball. If you watch Boston play, a lot of teams set their screens with the 5-man. Boston always set screens with the guards because they want those matchups where they can attack your guards and spray for those threes. So with that being said, that is how it is. And Dallas just has to get better. At the end of the day, Luka got to get better. Dallas got to get better. And I would say more of the blame goes to Luka, but credit to Dallas. Credit to Boston for the way they played the game of basketball and stuck to their game plan. And also credit to Joe Mazzulla as well.
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla has proven himself to be a great coach. I give all the love and credit to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They showed up and played like the stars we expected them to be, particularly when they counted in games 3 and 5. Major credit to them as well. Mad love to them. Respect to Al Horford, who's been in this league as long as you have, and finally captured his first championship. Wishing him nothing but the best. When I look at Luka, 2 things stand out. Number 1, can't be pouting with the referees all the time. Number 2, you got to get your ass in shape. He wasn't in shape to deal with Jaylen Brown, defending him 94 feet for most of the NBA Finals. That was problematic. He got his numbers, but the slowing of the pace and what have you, I think that played a role. And I got to call out Kyrie, bro. You averaging 14 points on 34% shooting in Boston. I'm not talking about the Kyrie in Dallas. The Kyrie in Dallas showed up in Dallas. But in Boston, I really believe, UD, the crowd got to him. The whole environment. I think that.
I'm going to say this. The whole storyline, I think, got to Kyrie. He did too much apologizing. Damn that. You done already left there. You are not the same person you were when you was in Boston.
That's true.
So why every game or every damn interview, you got to apologize for your time in Boston? You got to explain yourself in Boston. I think mentally right there enough was the issue for Kyrie because he kept focusing on the past instead of the future. I would have spoken that one time, and after that, I would have been sharpening my sword, get ready to go in the damn Boston Garden and get me a W. You ain't going to keep asking me about my time in Boston. That's in the past, and I'm looking towards the future. By the way, trying to compete against Boston and win a championship against Boston. So I would say just the mental part of that was exhausted for Kyrie, and he shouldn't have kept doing that.
And my question to you is, why do you think he kept doing that? My response to that would be, I think that at the end of the day, Kyrie is a very nice person. He's a good brother whose heart's in the right place, and he feels bad about what he did when he was in Boston, and most importantly, how he departed from Boston to go to Brooklyn. And I think the fact that he did that and he had regrets as to how he handled it, stepping on the leprechaun on the parquet floor and all of this other stuff, I think that messed with him psychologically, and that's the reason he did it. I don't think it's because of the media asking him the questions. I think he felt guilty about him being out of character and acting a way he knew better than to act.
I can agree with that. But the media wouldn't let him move on. They wouldn't let him get past it. I mean, every conversation was about his time in Boston and why it went left and how it went left. And as a basketball player, mentally, I think you're focusing on the wrong damn things. I'm focusing on trying to win a championship against Boston. I'm not focusing on apologizing. I'm not focusing on the Boston fans trying to feel good about me. I'm not focused on them not trying to boo me. I ain't focusing on none of that. I'm focusing on getting a W and getting a ring. And I think that right there is where Kyrie took the first, wrong step.
What do you think would have happened if LeBron James was his teammate instead of Luka Doncic, with Kyrie being on his apology tour, per se, whenever he was in Boston? What would LeBron James have done? LeBron James is a former teammate of yours, just like he is, just like he's a former teammate of Kyrie. What would LeBron have done?
I'm gonna tell you this, man, and it makes me think about when Bron came to Miami from Cleveland and some of the things that he went through. There was definitely a little bit of apologetic, a little bit of feeling bad for the organization and feeling bad for the people you left behind.
Right.
So I could see LeBron James more so being relatable to Kyrie because he's been in that situation. He knows what it is to leave an organization and on the wrong note, leave an organization in frustration, leave an organization in shambles, and the expectations were higher than what they got from you when you were there. So he knows what that's like. So honestly, I think Bron would have been relatable to Kyrie. But now that's when you need a couple guys in your locker room and say, hey, we got you. You one of ours now. Don't worry about that. You don't need them. They can't help us. They can't hurt us. You with us now. And I think that's what somebody in that locker room should say, hey, Kyrie, you with us now. You ain't in Boston no more. You in Dallas. Damn that time in Boston. That's over with. You ain't the same person and you ain't the same man. You don't need to keep apologizing.
Based on what you just articulated, if that LeBron James is similar to what we saw from Kyrie Irving, can one argue that's why y'all lost to Dallas in the NBA Finals that year?
That could have been part of it, but I think another part of it is a lot of blame to go around. I think Rick Carlisle definitely outcoached Spo at that time, and Spo will tell you that. It's very, very, very few times you'll ever see Spo ever get outcoached. Spo will tell you that. He think Rick Carlisle got the best of him in that series. Secondly, Dallas came with a damn zone. We hadn't seen the zone. We wasn't thinking about no zone. We could not score on no zone. And thirdly, I think that was the growth of LeBron James. I think that's when LeBron James had to go in the post. That's when LeBron James had to play some 4 and even some 5 for us to be the best version that we needed to be. He had never wanted to go in the post. He never wanted to play the 4 and the 5. He wanted no part of that physicality down there. Spo challenged him. That boy got in the lab with Akeem that summer. Got in the lab with Akeem and came back with a bag I ain't never seen before. I'm talking about a Birkin.
Wow.
I'm talking about a Birkin.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because of Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, he got in the lab with Akeem.
And how soon did y'all see that bag? Was it from training camp on, or was it as the season progressed? Was it right before the playoffs arrived? How soon did you see that new bag, LeBron's?
Man, Stephen, we seen it in training camp, man. It was times in training camp where everybody in practice would stop and just watch, because some of the moves he was making, some of the shots he was making, the degree of difficulty, some of the things that he was doing, we had never seen him do before. And nobody else could do this. Nobody else could do this shit.
Right.
We couldn't do it. So now you have a practice full of 14 guys that are all stopping, watching one guy go to work, and every move he makes, we just shaking our head, getting back down the floor. Even Spo shaking his head to the point where nobody can stop him.
Udonis, one of the things that I ask, and I love asking you this question because I've been confronted by this question over the last several weeks. They talk about LeBron James, and they were talking about who's his best teammate ever, and they brought up Anthony Davis, and they brought up Kyrie Irving. I said, Dwayne Wade. I said, y'all are not understanding. The LeBron James that arrived in Miami is not the LeBron James you see now. LeBron James, his first year, every single press conference post-game was with D. Wade by his side. He didn't have one-on-ones. And he was that psyched out. You got Pat Riley protecting him, y'all protecting him, D. Wade protecting him, until he was able to stand up on his own 2 feet. And D. Wade had to let him know, you're the best in the world. You're better than me. You got to be the number 1 option. I said he didn't learn how to win until he got to Miami. If it were not for Miami, we may have never seen the LeBron we're seeing now. That has been my position. To that, you say what?
I give you 1,000% credit on that. Hands down, D-Wade was the best teammate LeBron ever had. When you talk about a guy who literally had the organization on his back and stepped to the side when another guy came in and said, hey, listen, we gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. But until we do, you the man. You lead, I'll follow. That is selflessness beyond anything any other NBA player has ever done for LeBron James. Now, that allows LeBron James as a basketball player to understand that when he's in a situation where younger guys are coming in and different players are coming in, how he needs to make these guys feel comfortable, how he needs to conversate with these guys, how he can also hold these guys to a standard, and also the brotherhood and the connection of a locker room. You can have so many great basketball players, but if you don't have a brotherhood and a connected locker room, the X's and O's, the talent will not matter. So those are the things that LeBron learned from being in Miami. And I'll tell you another thing, Stephen A. Like you said, we protected Bron, man. I mean, it was times when we would go to lunch and people just yell out, hey, LeBron, F you. And we would be, I was the first. Yeah. Bring your ass over here with that if you want to.
Right.
Come over here with that if you want to. You're going to limp back. So when Bron came to us, man, he understood the true brotherhood and the true meaning of being a part of a culture. And he was able to take that, run with it, and use that with the Lakers and other teams that he went to, Cleveland and these different teams like that.
And not only that, UD, I used to make the argument, he left Cleveland, obviously, Cleveland, South Beach, there's nothing to discuss. There's no comparison.
Not even close.
There's no comparison. But the other side to it is that there wasn't a brotherhood in Cleveland, but his first go round. Second go round, I'm not questioning that. But in Cleveland, when he came to Miami because of D-Wade. He came to Miami because he knew he had a true brother that I would challenge did not exist in Cleveland his first go round. Was I right about that?
Facts. 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. That brotherhood did not exist in Cleveland. He did not have that relationship like what he had with LeBron, with Dwayne Wade. And also, not just a brotherhood, we're talking about another guy who's damn near just as good as you, and that can challenge you on that level in practice every day and hold you accountable to that level and that standard that you should be held at. Because it's a little different when it's coming from a guy like myself. It's a little different when it's coming from the sixth man or the seventh man. But when it's coming from another damn Hall of Famer, and a champion, and an Olympian, and a guy that's on your level, that resonates differently to you.
I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking about another brotherhood that LeBron is developing. One could argue. They're doing a podcast together. The name is J.J. Redick. There are rumors that he is going to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. There is one person responsible for the most poignant comment about J.J. Redick potentially being a coach on the same squad that LeBron James is playing on, and that is Udonis Haslem. You were on the air weeks ago, and you were the first person, if not the only person, to bring up J.J. Redick being LeBron James' coach might be cool for him and LeBron, but it's going to raise proverbial eyebrows and beyond from everybody else in the locker room, because when JJ speaks, if he's the coach for LeBron James and the squad LeBron James plays on, everybody's going to be looking at him and wondering what's coming from J.J. Redick as opposed to what's coming from LeBron. First of all, am I accurate in articulating what your position was? And if so, elaborate on what you were trying to say.
You're definitely accurate. You're 100% accurate. I mean, I just spent 20 years of my NBA career in the locker room, and the one thing that I noticed as the NBA progressed and the talent got better is these young boys started worrying more and more about the shit they can't control, more and more about the things that don't have nothing to do with you, and the focus would shift from the basketball to everything else involved. So now you're talking about bringing in a guy who like J.J. Redick, who, once again, I think has a great basketball IQ. I think can have a bright future in the NBA coaching, but he has a relationship with LeBron James. So we understand how when you walk into that locker room and you're speaking and you're trying to figure out how to win a championship, you got to trim a lot of fat and you got to cut through a lot of different things that most coaches won't have to cut through. And the fact that you brought this up is interesting because I had a chance to speak to JJ after I made that comment. And JJ understood exactly where I came from. He understood how it's going to be when he walks in that position. When you talk about the NBA right now, you can have talent. You got LeBron James. You got Anthony Davis. But can you connect the dots in that locker room? Is it going to be quiet? Can you quiet the noise? Can you have one voice in that locker room? Because you only need one voice going. You don't need 5 voices. You don't need LeBron talking. You don't need AD talking. You don't need an opinion from this guy. You need one voice, one sound, and everybody listens. So can JJ trim that fat? Can he cut through those different things? That's going to be the challenge for JJ. Not his coaching ability, not his talent, not what his future can look like. None of that thing. Not about X's and O's. We know JJ is smart as hell. We know he knows the game of basketball. We know he can articulate things. We know he has the potential to be a possible superstar coaching in this league. He has all those things. Good looking, young, nice suit, slick back hair. He got all that. The Pat Riley effect, the 2024 Pat Riley effect.
Right.
He got all that going. So we know he got that. But can he cut through that? Can he trim that fat that he got to go through in that locker room? Because it's going to be side eyes. It's going to be whispers. It's going to be a lot of that going on. If you're trying to win a championship, you can't have that.
As in our colleague at ESPN, the one and only Kendrick Perkins, told me he went up to J.J. Redick in his face, real talk, and he said, look, I believe in you. I think you're going to do an outstanding job. Articulated all the positive things about J.J. that you just articulated. But he said, your arrogant ass is going to have an issue, because of that arrogance. Could that be an Achilles heel, or is that something that could work out, that could end up working out for J.J.?
Nah, it's a players' league. He can't be arrogant. It's a players' league right now, and if they don't like you, they'll get you up out of there. I mean, we've seen that, multiple times. Frank Vogel won a championship in the bubble with the Lakers, and his ass was out of there the next year.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So we understand that. No coach has sat in that seat since Phil Jackson longer than 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you can't be arrogant. Players don't like that. It's about the players. It is not about the coach. You are there to help the players win a championship. You are not the first to hold up the trophy. You're most likely going to be the last to hold up the trophy. So as a coach, you got to take a back seat to your players, and you got to let them be the stars. You can't have no egos, and you can't be arrogant in that locker room, but that's going to turn your guys off. And once you turn your guys off, it's hard to get them back.
Transitioning back to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference, was Jimmy Butler right when he said if he were healthy, Boston would have been bounced out of there? Your now former teammate on the Miami Heat, that's what he said. Pat Riley didn't like that. If you ain't on the court contributing because for whatever reason, you should keep your mouth shut. That's what Riley said. He's Pat Riley. Yeah. He gets to get away with that. I ain't worried about Jimmy Butler having any pushback on that. That ain't going to work for him in South Beach. I'll tell you that right now. But was Jimmy Butler correct, Udonis Haslem?
I'll tell you this, Stephen A. If we could have stayed healthy, we were looking forward to another matchup against Boston. That's what I will say. I don't know how that matchup goes. I don't know who wins that matchup. But if we stay healthy, we're looking for another matchup against Boston. You look at it, 3 out of the last 5 years, 4 out of the last 5 years, right. It's either been us or Boston in that championship, in that Eastern Conference championship. We've been battling each other back and forth to get to the finals out of the East. So, yeah, we was looking forward to that matchup, and it would have been a good matchup.
Who's going to be the best matchup for the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference next year? You got Giannis and Dame in Milwaukee. You got Embiid and Maxey coming back. Who knows what Philly's going to do in the offseason? Are they going to get Paul George? Are they going to get Klay Thompson? You know my Knicks. 100 blue skies, baby. 100 blue skies. I mean, I'm not ruling it out, UD. I mean, when you think about stiff competition, you got to mention Cleveland and Orlando out of respect. But who do you think is the biggest impediment to Boston repeating in the Eastern Conference?
So once again, I'm gonna go back because y'all might not have heard what I said. The last 5 years, it's been the Heat and Boston going back and forth out of that East. Now, I don't care about the finals because you cannot get to the finals unless you get out of the East. So I'm gonna say the biggest competitor right now for the Boston Celtics is the Miami Heat. If a healthy Miami Heat faces a healthy Boston Celtics team in a 7-game series, I'm interested to see how that turns out.
You don't think Miami needs another big? I look at Bam Adebayo, man. I'm like, I love Bam, but I think you need another big body. Personally,
I agree.
Do you feel with that?
I agree, and Bam agrees as well. I think Bam knows that the center role for him is a role that he can play, but there's another role that he can play as a power forward, and that will allow him to be his best version, and he can mature and grow and step away from the basket and shoot threes and do all these things that guys in the NBA are doing right now. We definitely need a little bit of size when you talk about Joker and B and all these centers that have guard skill sets, but at the end of the day, they're still in a center's body. Right. And that wears on Bam. He's 6'9", 6'10", and that wears on him over the course of a season. So I agree with you. We need another big, but once again, 4 out of the last 5 years, it's been us in Boston fighting for that spot in the East. And until we figure out who is going to be with us and how healthy we're going to be, I'm going to say the Miami Heat.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. And you still a VP for player development. I ain't gonna get into those specifics with you.
Yeah,
about
I can't get in that.
I know you can't get in that Jimmy Butler's future and all that stuff. I just want the audience to know. I ain't forget about that stuff, but I ain't gonna put this man on the spot like that. Pat Riley will kill him. I ain't gonna do that to you. All right, let's go out to the Western Conference. Is Dallas going back to the finals next year, or do you got somebody else that you're looking at?
No, hell no. Ant-Man them. I got to go with Ant-Man them. Now, see, what I will say is Dallas caught lightning in the bottle. You know what I mean? They made that trade at the trade deadline. It worked out. It couldn't have worked out any better. It was a tremendous trade. I love what P.J. Washington brought. I love what Gafford brought. But they were a 5 seed, and they caught lightning in the bottle. I don't think anybody saw Dallas being in the finals this year. But now you look at Ant-Man, and you look at those guys, and that's 2 years in a row that they done had that pain. It was 2 years in a row that they done had that pain where they done got sent home by Denver. Now, they were able to graduate and conquer that Denver monster. Now, this year, they lose to Dallas. I think they go back next year and they graduate and they conquer that Dallas monster. I'm looking at Ant-Man and what he's doing and his leadership, man, and how he's turned that team into a winning organization. And I'm saying Minnesota.
I think he's the new face of the NBA, and I don't mind saying that because his athleticism, he's improved his J, got that nice fall-away jump, got an NBA body, can get to the hole at will, got a handle, is aggressive, talks that shit, backs it up, and defends. I love Ant-Man, no question about it. I am worried, though, when I think about Minnesota, UD, from this perspective. When I bring up a name like Klay Thompson, New York, Philadelphia, they got assets. What if they could get their hands on somebody like that? Because we know they struggle shooting. Collectively, they struggle shooting the basketball. If you had Klay in a bad year, shot 39% from three-point range, shot 42% from three-point range, 9 of the previous 10 seasons, and shot 40%, and shot 42% the second half of this season. If they could get somebody like that to put on the court with an Anthony Edwards, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. It would be a little bit different to me.
That's why they couldn't attack. That's why they couldn't attack Luka and Kyrie the way that Boston was able to attack Luka and Kyrie, because you only really got one guy who's a threat with the basketball in his hand, and that's Anthony Edwards. He's the only guy that can attack and go get his own bucket anytime he wants at will. So you really couldn't put Kyrie and Luka in as many actions as you wanted to. You really couldn't attack them as much as you wanted to. Now, if you bring in another guy like Klay who can put those guys in action, who's actually an actual threat every time down the court, now you even up the score against those two guys. And once again, you talk about Klay who can defend, who is a two-way player, and Ant-Man who can defend, who is a two-way player. You get Klay Thompson on that team, I definitely give that edge to the Minnesota Timberwolves over the Dallas Mavericks.
Do we just negate or forget about the Denver Nuggets? It took them 7-game series. They lost games 1, 2, and 7 on their home court to Minnesota. But if they had Jeff Green and Bruce Brown, I think they win that series. We got to look at Denver. They still got Jokic. They still got Jamal Murray. They still got Porter and those boys. Do we summarily dismiss them, or could Denver resurrect itself and come back for Boston, who, by the way, they beat in the 2 meetings they met with them in the regular season, and everybody thought was on a collision course before the playoffs began? It was going to be Boston-Denver.
Not with those role players. Not with the role players Boston got, man. The Drew Holidays and the Derek Whites and those guys who start in their role and also on any given night can be Boston's best player. I think that's what gets them over the hump. And once again, I think that's what hurt Denver. You talk about losing Jeff Green. You talk about losing
Jeff Green, Bruce Brown.
You talk about losing Bruce Brown.
Right.
Those were guys that start in their role. You couldn't worry about what they were going to do on the stat sheet because you didn't know what those guys were going to bring. So you don't scheme for Bruce Brown. You don't scheme for Jeff Green. You just scheming for Joker. You scheming for all these other guys. And then all of a sudden, Bruce Brown gives you 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. All of a sudden, Jeff Green comes out of nowhere and gives you 12 points, 8 rebounds and 3 assists, 2 blocks, and different things like that. These are the things you can't scheme for. And once again, when it comes down to 2 evenly matched teams, the role players are the guys that get you over the hump. Talking about what Drew Holiday did in this year's finals. Talking about what Derek White did throughout the entire playoffs this year. There's no way you can argue that Drew Holiday and Derek White were just as important as Brown and Tatum.
So you got the Minnesota Timberwolves going to the finals next year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You got them going to the finals. Before I let you get on out of here, just a couple of more questions. You know, one of the guests that I've had on this show in the past is KG, the one and only Kevin Garnett. Now, that's a former Boston Celtic. Former Minnesota Timberwolves, but definitely a former Boston Celtic, right? If I had had you and Kevin Garnett on the show at the same time, what would that have been like?
That would have been rough with Stephen A. That would have been rough.
Why? Why?
But what I'm going to say is this here. A lot of people have made points to me, and I listen. I might act like I don't hear people, but I listen. As I get to this side of things, you know, certain things I got to leave behind. You know what I mean? And it might be time just to leave that grudge and that beef behind. You know what I mean? I was in the Boston Garden the other day while Boston Celtics won a championship, and I ain't throw up. So I'm maturing and I'm growing in full time right in front of everybody's face. So that might be a conversation for a day that maybe me and KG sit down over a cup of coffee and we hash that out. We got to see.
But what's the beef? I understand a rivalry, y'all competing against one another, but now that y'all don't play anymore, there should be no beef. It was just war when y'all were going against each other, right?
Nah, Stephen A. Smith, man, I'm from a place where the things you stay out your mouth, you got to be held accountable. And we all know KG say some crazy shit out his mouth sometimes.
The crazy stuff.
For me, I was waiting for retirement to kind of hold his ass accountable.
So let me ask you, what's the craziest thing he said? What's the craziest thing Kevin Garnett said?
The thing is, none of it was ever said to me. It was always said to my teammates and guys around me. But being an enforcer, I was the guy that always wanted to step up and protect my teammates and made sure that, hey, if you want to bring that shit to anybody, bring it here.
Right. Now, KG, Kendrick Perkins was guilty of that to some degree. All of those guys with the Boston Celtics was guilty of that stuff. The things that they used to say to opponents back in the day, that was real. JJ Redick had a problem with the things they said to him.
Man, listen, let me tell you something. Like I said, if we would have been at the park, I'd have to pop the trunk. They talk crazy. They talk crazy, man. And I understand it's in the context of the game of basketball, man. But I was always taught as a man from my father, don't tolerate no disrespect on no levels from nobody.
Got you. Before I let you get on out of here, man, the OG podcast. Talk to me about that. Why you're doing it. What was your goal when you first jump started it?
Oh, man, me and my brother Mike Miller, who were college roommates, Go Gators.
Florida
we
Gators,
just talked about, yes, sir. We just talked about getting out there and just, keeping it real and, talking about, things that wasn't necessarily clickbait things, giving people an opportunity to tell their stories and also tell some of our stories, man. I got 20 years in the league. Mike has about 14, 15 years in the league. So we have so many tremendous, amazing stories that we just want to give people insight on and just let people know, part of our journey and how we got to where we were and, how the journey went for us. And also, once again, give other people a platform to tell their stories and tell their journeys. As much as I'm a basketball player, I'm a fan of so many different people of so many different sports. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually enjoying interviewing people and asking them how they got to where they were, what their journey was about, what happened, during your journey. Is there anything that changed your life that made you do the things that you're doing? So as a fan, I've been having the opportunity to bring on people who I'm a fan of. Ice Cube, Jalen Waddle. People know I'm a huge Dolphin fan. Yep. So, these are things that I'm sitting here living my childhood dream because I'm interviewing people that I'm a fan of. I'm getting autographs and jerseys and everything.
You know the Miami Dolphins ain't going to win nothing, right? You do know that, right? You do know that, right?
Wait a minute, Stephen. That's where we get it. Listen.
Can I tell you why? Can I first tell you why?
Dallas Cowboys in? So the
Dallas
Dallas Cowboys on?
Oh, hell no. We know they ain't going to win.
Oh, okay.
But here's why I'm telling you what I do. I hold this against the Dolphins all the time. You cannot live in beautiful, warm weather and sunshine and then go in the inclement weather and win. For example, Kansas City. Kansas City got to come to Miami. I'm like, all right, I want to see Tua and Waddle and the Cheetah against Mahomes and Kelsey and those boys. The second we knew they had to go to Kansas City, I said, what's the weather? They told me it's going to be -12. I said, they ain't got a chance. That's the problem with the Miami Dolphins. See, you play indoors. No matter what the weather is like outside the arena, the same as in the arena wherever you go. But in football, the conditions change. That's why I say that about your Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, January and February have been rough on us, but I tell you one thing. We ain't won a playoff game in 24 years since 2000. And Mike McDaniels has been doing everything at 24 on the hour in training camp. So now they understand what the expectation is. We got to break that. You know what I'm saying? We got to break that. And every day, Mike McDaniels is drilling that into their head, focusing on breaking that curse of not winning a damn playoff game in 24 years since 2000, man. So this will be the year we win a playoff game. I don't know. We got Odell. We went and got Jonnu Smith. We got Shaq Barrett over there. We getting back Chubb. We getting back Phillips. We getting healthy. We got a new defensive coordinator. We're working on signing.
You can have all of that.
We got A-Chain. We loaded.
You can have all of that, but you brought up Odell in South Beach. I don't know about that. It could be distractions. I'm with that. Well, Odell's my boy. OBJ's my man. I love you, OBJ. I'm wishing nothing but the best for him. But I mean, it's a lot of damn distractions, okay? Let's just leave it at that, all right? It's a lot of damn distractions. But look, man, keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to showing up. I know I owe you an appearance on your podcast. I'm coming through. I'm going to be there. Appreciate the work that you're doing. You're a rising star in this business, my man. Happy to have you on board. All the best to you.
Thank you, Stephen A. Man. I'm looking forward to lunch again in Miami, my brother. I got another spot for you.
That's right. That's right. I'll be there. I'll be there next week. Let's do that.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, bro. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
The one and only Udonis Haslem right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airwaves of YouTube.